Let's just hope it stays in place for the video because this is a mess. I don't know what to do with it. Well, here we are, another Steelers primetime game. My hair is flying everywhere. Another Steelers primetime game, Monday Night Football. Woo! What could possibly go wrong? For some reason, I don't like when my teams play in primetime, but it is what it is. Is this a trap game? If you are a Steelers fan or if you know anything about the Steelers, this could potentially be a trap game, but we are not going to let it because we are better, we are stronger, we are faster. I don't know if any of that is true, but the Steelers play the Giants on Monday Night Football, and this should be an interesting game, mainly because the Giants are rolling in at 2-5, and the Steelers are 5-2. So if you look at this game on paper, if you look at this game any way, shape, or form, you will say, oh, the Steelers got this, everything's fine, we should be good. Here's a couple of things you should know. First thing is the Steelers love a trap game. The Steelers historically have not performed well in trap games, and we historically lose games we should win and win games we should lose. So I'm a little bit concerned about this game. However, it's at home on Monday night, so that's good. The second thing you should know is the Giants have won 2 games this year. The 2 games the Giants have won this year, they've both been on the road, so just something to consider. However, the Steelers will be in their color rush uniform, so it will be a good, exciting game in my personal opinion. But let me just get into the 3 things that I'll be watching when I watch this game on Monday night. The Giants are one of those teams that I don't know what to say. Offensively, they don't look great. Defensively, they have moments, and I just don't know what to think of this game, honestly. I don't really trust them. I don't trust their offensive line. I don't really trust anything they have going on right now, and that makes them scary because at the end of the day, this is the NFL, and there's only 32 teams in the NFL, and these teams have grown men on these teams that are playing to feed their families. So anytime you have a matchup where it's a grown man against another grown man, and the job is to feed your family, it gives you pause. And I really don't know who the Steelers team is. Let's be honest here for a second. For the first 6 games, we had a completely different quarterback and we looked one way, and then we insert another quarterback and now we look a different way. So I don't know who the Steelers team is. I know we have a good defense that continues to show itself, but I don't know what our offense is doing. I don't know who we are. I don't know what we're going to do. So I'm not sure what offense is going to show up in our game against the Giants. And like I said before, the Giants have won 2 games. The 2 games they've won have been on the road. So it's just one of those things where I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't know if I trust the Steelers quite yet. I do trust that we're better coached than the Giants. I will give us that. I do think we have better quarterback play than the Giants. I think our offense is better. Listen, let's be real here. The Steelers are better than the Giants. It's just, will the Steelers show that they're better than the Giants, or are they going to play down to the Giants' competition? I don't know. We'll wait and see. But let me get into the first thing that I'm going to be looking at when I look at this game. So the first thing I'm going to be paying attention to should come as no surprise is the quarterback play. Is the Steelers offense that I saw on Sunday night the offense that I should be excited to see? Is that going to be our offense? I don't know what our offense is going to look like on Monday night, so I am going to be paying attention. Are we going to throw the ball down the field? Are we going to run the ball? I don't know what we're going to do. So the first thing I'm going to be focused on is, what does our quarterback play look like? Wilson, in my opinion, came out. He was a little rusty. He was a little bit shaky, and everyone was like, oh gosh, what are we doing? Is this the guy? And then he proved to be the right decision. So I'm very curious to see what kind of consistency Wilson has from that game to this game. It's going to be very interesting for me just to kind of figure out, what we do and what we don't do and things like that. The other thing, I just almost choked. The other thing to remember or to consider when you're thinking about this Giants defense is they are third in third down defense. So what that means is they usually get teams off the field on third down. So if the Steelers run into a situation where they have to complete a lot of third down situations to continue and sustain drives, that is a little bit concerning. So again, yes, the Giants as a team, they're not very good, but there's sneaky little things that they do well that makes them hard to beat. And if you go look at how many points teams have scored against them, it hasn't been very much. So yes, they might be 2-5, but when you just kind of look at who they are and some of the things they're doing, there's a lot of little tricky things happening. So I am going to be looking at Wilson's consistency this game, knowing that the Giants rank third in third down defense this year. So that's going to be something I am going to keep an eye out. The second thing I'm going to be keeping an eye out is our offensive line versus that Jets, have I been saying the Jets the whole time? Have I been saying that? I hope I haven't been saying the Jets the whole time. So the second thing I'm going to be looking at is the Giants defensive line versus the Steelers offensive line. So as a Steelers fan, or if you watch any football, you will know that our offensive line has struggled a little bit this season. I feel like we're kind of finding our groove, and I feel like we're getting better here and there. And so I'm very curious to see this Giants defensive line against the Steelers offensive line. I'm not here to tell you that the Giants have like a top 7 defensive line or top 10 defensive line, because I don't know, because statistically it's not showing up that way. But when I've been watching the Giants and when I've been looking at what they have going on, if you can hold a team to as few points as they've held teams, that tells me that that defensive line is doing something. So again, like I said before, they're getting off the field on third down, and that defensive line, in my opinion, pops. Every time I look at a Giants game, I always see that Giants defensive line going and trying to find the quarterback. So I am going to keep an eye on our offense versus the Giants defensive line. I really hope I've been saying Giants defensive line this whole time. The other thing is that I believe to be our bread and butter, which should come as no surprise to absolutely anybody, is our defense. And so can our defense make Daniel Jones look like a joke? So like, there's no better way to say that, because I don't like this Giants offensive line. I think this Giants offensive line is a little bit laughable. So just like I said, I'm going to be watching the offensive line. I'm going to be watching our offensive line against the Giants defensive line. I do believe our defensive line is better than the Giants defensive line, and that Giants offensive line is not very good. So all that is complicated. So maybe I should just say this is going to come down to the battle of the trenches. Who's going to win the battle of the trenches? It's kind of funny because in the NFL, you don't really usually talk about trenches as much as you do in college football. But when I look at the Steelers, it's going to be interesting because Daniel Jones, in my opinion, he's not that great of a quarterback. But if you give any quarterback time, they're going to look better than they probably really are. So I'm very curious to see, does our defensive line get in there and get pressure on Daniel Jones? Because if you get pressure on Daniel Jones, I feel like we're in for a great night. So when I say I'm going to be looking at that matchup, I am really looking at that matchup to see if we're going to be able to create turnovers, if we're going to be able to make an impact on the game there. The other thing I want to call out, just for sake of clarification, is I realize that I also said that I'm going to be watching the Giants defensive line versus our offensive line. For context, I think the Steelers have a better offensive line than the Giants offensive line. What I'm looking for when it comes to that is I'm just going to see how our offensive line holds up. Because when I look at games for my teams, I'm looking at how these things are going to fare as we move forward. So yes, we play the Giants this week, but when I say I'm going to be watching certain things, what I'm really watching to see is how that's going to fare as we move forward. So I believe this defensive line is going to present our offensive line a challenge. So I'm very curious to see how we get challenged and what we do with that challenge. So having said that, I am going to be paying attention to Wilson, what he looks like, how he comes out, what does our offense look like, what does our offensive play calling look like, first and foremost. The second thing is I'm going to be looking at how our offensive line handles the Giants defensive line. And the third thing is going to be our defensive line against the Giants offensive line, because I think that's our big advantage. And do we force Daniel Jones to make mistakes, i.e. turnovers, i.e. just doing dumb things that don't make any sense? So those are going to be my 3 things I'm going to watch. I hope that makes sense. I hope I did a good job of explaining that. I don't really know, because I still don't know if I call them the Giants or the Jets at the beginning of this. But at this point, it just is what it is, right? It just is what it is. Give myself credit. We did just play the Jets. So it's not like I'm just like saying the Jets. They're both in New York, Jets, Giants, all the things, whatever. So when it comes down to who I'm going to pick this game, let me tell you something real quickly. I usually talk mad trash about the Giants and Cowboys being in primetime games, because I am sick and tired of seeing the Giants play the Cowboys. I don't know why, because I don't know the last time the Giants have actually beat the Cowboys. But yet, every single year, we have to watch the Giants and the Cowboys play in primetime game like we give a damn. We don't care. We don't want to see it. I don't want to see my Steelers play the Giants in primetime games either. And that is why my Steelers better beat the Giants in this primetime game, because if they don't, they're going to make me look really stupid for complaining and talking about how bad the Giants are. So I'm picking the Steelers to win. I think the Steelers have a better team. I think they have better coaches. I think they're headed down the right path. I think they have a better trajectory. They're also playing at home, and I just kind of like the way this game feels for us. However, historically, my Steelers struggle with games like this. The games where I'm like, oh yeah, they got this, they're going to win this, are the games that they usually struggle with. So I hope that Steelers team is gone. I hope they come out ready to go. I hope they realize that this game is on Monday night and they come prepared and they come to take care of business. So I am picking my Steelers to win this game. I don't do score predictions. And honestly, the reason why I don't do score predictions is because I don't care if my team wins the game 3-2. Like, I don't care what the score is. I just want us to win the game. And so for me, if I ever give a score prediction, I'm going to be like, well, 5-6 and hope my team wins, because that's all I care about. All I care about is going in there and getting the win, coming out healthy, getting better, and moving on to fight another day. I will end this video here. Here's to hoping my Steelers come out and they do not allow this to be a trap game. Here's to hoping that Russell Wilson comes out and is even better than he was last week. But we'll see what happens. Again, we're heading into the bye week, so this game is going to be super important. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all those things. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. As I end all of my Steelers videos, here we go.